They did not listen, they're not listening still. Perhaps they never will. Name the song, get a cookie. Anyway, I was going to mention this, but speaking of Vincent van Gogh, I always liked him. I can't remember if I liked him before the song or not. Just something about him. And I always remember meeting a girl one time. She was actually dating a friend of mine. And she was like an art history major or something, although she was working for the United Way. Because when you're an art history major, that's pretty much the height of what you can hope for, unless you can actually get a job in a museum. And, there's like 10,000 museums around the world. And at any one time, they might be looking for 3 people. Anyway, so she asked me if I liked art. And I said, yeah, sure. And she said, well, who do you like? And just to mess with her, I said, oh, I really like Norman Rockwell. And, her face kind of melted a bit like a Salvador Dali painting. How you like that for a reference? And she was like, well, yeah, but, don't you like other people? I forget if she might have mentioned, some artists like Matisse or whatever, or she said Picasso, I would have said, well, but you can't understand what he's painting. So I never did admit to her that I loved Vincent van Gogh. And I don't think I ever talked to her again. Coincidence? Maybe not. Anyway, that's not why we're here. What I wanted to talk to you about is real YouTubers. Because I'm not a real YouTuber. But something keep blinking. Anyway, I might have mentioned before I like watching the guys who some of them call themselves like First Amendment auditors, and some will say cop watchers. I understand. I don't like all of them. There's an awful lot of them out there who they don't do it right. They'll go and they'll instigate things. They purposely will cause trouble to get the cops acting up, or the people at whatever place they're at. They want them to get a reaction so that, it gets them more clicks on the YouTube machine. But there's good ones out there, and I'm not going to mention a lot of names. Well, I'll mention a couple of my favorites. A guy I really like he goes by the name David Finkel. And he's got sort of a little bit offbeat sense of humor. He's gotten pretty big on doing like political stuff now. He likes to kind of troll the MAGA people a bit, and which appeals to me. And there's another guy. I think I just mentioned him recently in something else. I can never remember if I've talked about something or not. I should take notes, but then I'd forget to look at the notes. But anyway, Jeff Gray, his channel's called On Your Oath, but he's been doing it for over 10 years, so everybody knows his real name now. But he's the guy I probably mentioned to you before. He goes out and he'll stand in front of a, courthouse, city hall, or sometimes just like on Main Street, he'll stand in front of a restaurant or something, and he holds a sign that says, God bless our homeless vets. And that bothers the hell out of people. And they'll call the cops, and they'll lie and say that he's out there bothering people asking for money, which he doesn't do. In fact, he turns money down when people think he's actually homeless. But I like him. But anyway, I'm not going to keep mentioning people. Let me mention one other. There's a guy that a lot of people talk about being one of the, well, he is, well, I guess, one of the originals. Calls himself Amagansett Press. And he's one of the ones that I first started watching. And I liked him. And he'd a lot of times he'll go to like post offices and stuff. But I got tired of him because he's real preachy. You know, he won't shut up when he's talking to someone, and he has to just go on and on, about why he's so wonderful and stuff. Let me mention one other. There's a guy I really admire called Long Island Audits. His name is Sean. And man, he's taken on a lot of government. He's in a big mix-up right now with Nassau County on Long Island because he went to do one of their buildings and they threw him out and trespassed him, and they even threw him in jail and took his camera and just all kinds of illegal stuff. But the great thing about him is he's been doing it a long time. So he's made a lot of money off it. So he's got the money and the lawyers to fight them on this kind of stuff. And he actually has gotten places to change. There's a lot of like public buildings, they'd have signs up that say no recording. Well, that's not legal. You have a First Amendment right to record in public places. There's exceptions. Certainly a courtroom is one, but as a general rule, like a public lobby, something like that, you can take your camera out. He just did one recently where he went into a PennDOT center and they trespassed him from there, and I'm hoping that becomes a lawsuit because that's something I've seen before. Did I talk about this before? I saw a couple videos by this girl who did that, and this really pisses me off because it's PennDOT. By the way, this isn't what I was going to talk about at all. Anyway, because when I first started watching these videos, and you'd see like Texas cops and Florida cops, and I'd always feel kind of smug living in Pennsylvania, the home of the Liberty Bell and all that. And then I see this girl getting thrown out of PennDOT centers and being trespassed and arrested by Pennsylvania State Police. Total violation of her civil rights. And by the way, I tried talking to my local Pennsylvania representative about it. I won't mention Dallas Kephardt's name because, people think I'm getting too political, but, and, the people in his office don't seem to have any care about the Bill of Rights. Well, there's an exception to that. I sat in on one of his telephone town meetings one time, and someone asked a question about the Second Amendment. No, he was all over that. I love guns. I love the Second Amendment. I think everybody should own their own artillery, because, of course, if you don't know, I live in the Alabama section of Pennsylvania. I think it was Jim Carville who first coined the phrase Pennsylvania. You got Philadelphia in the east, Pittsburgh in the west, and Alabama in between. And it's, there's a lot of truth in that. Gun gods and family, There's like big area for Trump supporters. Anyway, so yeah, that amendment, he kissed his ass on. First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. Yeah, he's not so wild about that one. I know First time I talked to one of his people who turned out to be like the supervisor of all his offices, I found out from someone else. And when we were talking about it, and I said, well, I said, it's like if someone came into your office there, they could have a camera in the public lobby. No, they can't. There's a law against that. And I said, really? Oh, yeah, you cannot film it. So far, I have not been able to find any law that says that. So, hey, if somebody can afford a lawyer, go into a state representative's office and film and get yourself arrested or trespassed and take them to federal court, will you? Anyway, let's get back to what I was actually going to talk about because it's already over 10 minutes. One of the things I love about watching all those videos, somebody will. Now, let me just say this as on the side too. This is not something I would ever really do, I don't think. Now, I'd like to be able to get to, go somewhere and just like walk down the street filming, or I'd love to like go over to the Clearfield Courthouse and go in and film it because, it's a great old building. But I won't do what a lot of these guys do, where they'll just go and they'll like go in someone's office and just stand there and record, the clerks or the secretaries or whatever. And they'll just stand there for, 15 minutes. And, they do it to make the people uncomfortable. And I mean, on the one hand, I agree with them that the First Amendment allows that. But on the other hand, that's not really the purpose, Go in, film the place, great. Now, if it was me, like if I did go to Clearfield Courthouse, like I might, if I stopped it, like there's, the public offices, like the, where they have like, you can look up the deeds and stuff like that. Even though I wouldn't have to, I would stop at the door first and say, would you mind if I left my camera on when I came in here? I mean, I'd be, the halls and so forth, I'd be just filming, but I wouldn't want to bother people. And it's the same way of like when people walk down, a street. I could see walking down, a street and stopping for a minute in front of a business just to show, what the business is and that, but not just go and camp out in front of the business. And again, it's perfectly legal, but anyway. So what I was going to talk about is some of the things I like about these videos, though. Like, let's talk about when they're standing out in front of a business. Like, a good example, I've seen someone doing a car lot. And they'll be standing there, of course, you understand, for it to be legal, you have to stand on public property. So they'll be on the sidewalk. And now, if you picture a lot of these car dealerships, you have a huge parking lot between the sidewalk and the actual, building, the offices. And so someone will go up there and they'll be standing on the sidewalk filming. And somebody will come out of the office and walk 100 or more feet across the parking lot to tell the guy to get your camera out of my face. Stop filming me. Now, first of all, he couldn't film any individuals from that far away, especially inside, because, if you're outside on a sunny day and you look at a building, what do you see in the windows? Usually your own reflection, right? But anyway, I just love that people will walk hundreds of feet and say, I do not want to be on camera. And then they'll come up to the guy and say, get your camera out of my face. And then they'll call the police and say, that the person is rude or whatever. One thing I've noticed is, since people have been doing this for years, more and more cops know that it's legal now. They don't try to chase the people off. But So that's one of the things I enjoy. There's another one that comes up an awful lot when somebody will be doing their audit outside of a state building of some kind. I've seen somewhere they'll be outside of a prison, a state prison, and they'll be in the public, easement along the road. Because a lot of times, prison, they're not going to have a sidewalk going by, but you know that every road if you don't have a sidewalk, there is an area along the side of the road that is open to the public to use. Anyway, they'll be out there. And this is a line I've heard from cops several times. They'll say, well, you're on private property. And the person will say, well, no, it's public property. And they'll say, no, it actually belongs to the state. Oh, wait a minute. So state property isn't public property? And they'll say, no, it's a private state property. I've actually heard that term, private state property. Now understand, now there is public property that you cannot go to if it is like marked authorized personnel only or no trespassing, that sort of thing. Prison's a perfectly good example. Now, if you went over to, like, say, Rockview, and I've never really taken much notice of it, just driving by, but I'm sure they have to have a public parking lot, right, for visitors. So you'd be allowed to go in that parking lot and film, but you couldn't, like, walk through a gate into the actual prison and be filming without permission. But anyway, that's another one. The ones I like is it's not public, it belongs. There's one too along the lines of that. How many times? Now, and this is weird, I've noticed. So many public buildings have private security. I don't understand why they are not just state. I mean, even like you'll have a courthouse, they'll have private security, and they are actually limited in what they can do. So then they have to call, like, deputy sheriff to come and actually rough the guy up. But like federal buildings, it's all private security. Even military installations, private security. I don't understand, why. Now with military, I can understand there's only like so many MPs to go around and stuff. But other buildings, you would think the federal government and the state government and that could just hire people. You got to figure, I don't know, maybe it is cheaper, because maybe, like, say, if Pennsylvania was hiring somebody to be armed security, they probably have to pay them better than what these security companies, private security companies pay their guys. So, and, then Pennsylvania doesn't have to pay, their workman's comp and, whatever other benefits and that. So, I don't know, maybe it actually is a cost benefit, but still it just seems weird to me. But anyway, what I was going to say about with federal property, how many times I've heard them say it is against federal law to record federal buildings. And I understand a lot of the times this is a guy, again, who will be standing out on a sidewalk filming the outside of the building. And some idiot security guard comes out and says, oh, you're breaking federal law. No. Anyway, I think that's mostly what I wanted to talk about with this stuff. I I don't watch those videos as much anymore because they all kind of go in the same way. You know what's going to happen. Couple of my favorites I like to keep up with. Like when I see when David Finkel comes out with a new one, I immediately watch his. And some of the others I always check out. But I'll tell you another. When I first saw people doing this, I thought, why would you go there? They'll do churches. They'll go outside of a church. There's a lady in California. Wow, I can't. I think she goes by First Amendment audits, and she does churches a lot of times, and she has a friend that goes with her a lot of the time. And they'll just stand out there, and they'll go like, if they know that it's a 9 o'clock service, they'll get there like at 8:30, and watch people coming in and that. And some of the churches are cool, and they'll almost all of them, when they first will come out, if they do come out to talk to them, they'll ask if they want to join them. And this lady, she'll politely say, "Oh no, thank you." Sometimes she'll say, "Well, do you think there's any chance I can come in with my camera before the service starts and just take pictures of the inside, especially if they have like nice stained glass and stuff." And only a couple of them have ever allowed her to do that. But the thing that gets me, like I said at first, I thought, why bother a church? But some of them get nasty. They'll even get, not very often, but a couple of them get physical where they'll like try to grab the camera out of somebody's hand. And so it's like, yeah, go ahead and assault this woman and then go inside and talk about how much you love Jesus. Anyway, that's like I said, I don't watch a lot of those videos anymore because you sort of see a lot of the same thing. I'll tell you one more that amused me. One time, a couple of guys that always worked together, but they were filming somewhere, and a lot of them hate when you say filming, by the way, but I don't care because of course there's no film anymore. There's no taping. You're supposed to say recording, but screw them, I'm old. Anyway, these two guys were standing. It was like by a convenience store, and something had happened. I forget. The cops pulled somebody over, and that's what they were filming. And then cops came over to like talk to them. And, cops love to try to get people's ID, and I won't even get into all the laws on that stuff, but whatever. They come over to talk to those guys, and when the cops got close enough, the guys are talking about, "So, what do you think after this? Go get something to eat?" "Yeah, I could go for a burrito." "Oh, well, who has good burritos? That place down there." "But they cost about $5. "Well, if it's good though, it's worth it." "Well, they charge extra for the star." And the cops stand there trying to talk to them, and they just totally ignore the cop and keep talking about the burritos. I just thought it was hilarious. But yeah, I've got to end this. It's going way too long. I might just have to do a whole nother video though on some of the disgusting things I see cops doing and stuff that the illegal things they try to get away with, and the way they try to trick people on these videos. And I know most anybody who watches this, they won't need the warnings, but maybe you could pass it on to some of this on to your kids and grandkids. So yeah, I think I'm definitely going to do a video about that, about how they insist that you have to give ID when you don't have to and things like that. No offense, Pam. Pam's the daughter of, one of the few good cops. I shouldn't say that. Well, Bobby might see this too. His dad was a cop. I really liked his dad. I remember when he made detective, and it was a pretty proud accomplishment. Anyway, and I will admit there's a lot of good cops out there, but there's a lot of bad ones. And the thing is, you can't call yourself a good cop, or if your husband or daughter or whoever is a cop and you say they're a good cop, but if they let other cops be bad cops, then they're not good. I don't know. Anyway, talk about a whole nother subject. It's about all I wanted to talk about. So, peace out, huh?